container ship running aground in the middle of the Suez Canal, yet there's another ship that goes above and beyond, ramming down any bridge that stands in its path. I wonder who wins the Darwin Award here. Does it go to the boat that was barreling at full speed down the river, not watching out for other boats, or to the folks trying to shout down the roar of a powerful motor? In any case, it's quite clear who suffered the most here. Ferries are far from racing boats, but even their speed is enough to bring down a harbor crane thanks to their mass. This mishap happened in part of the Barcelona with the passenger ferry Excellent. Fortunately, none of the 420 passengers were injured. However, the collision caused a fire and the entire terminal had to be evacuated. The crew of this barge had no idea they would end up on the other side of a fishing rod. And said fishing rod turned out to be a Serbian BP-7 belly dredger. You load it up like that and see what happens. The barge just snapped in half. Incidentally, at this point in time, several complaints had already been filed with the Navigation Inspectorate about the operation of this dredger. It's unmarked, doesn't have any distinctive signs, payment names don't match up with the transponder name, and the amount of crew along with their qualifications are questionable at best. Just look at this sharp turn. Blue Star Ferries, the largest ferry company in Greece, should be proud of their personnel. This fleet, worth mentioning, also consists fully of modern vessels with core speeds of 23 to 30 knots. Still afraid to take your parallel parking exam? Learn from the professionals. Regattas often come with their own surprises. In this video, the crew had already started relaxed, sailing so smoothly, until they had to sidestep a bit to overtake their rivals. And what's this? The crew of the other boat couldn't handle the wind and lost control. The result was a rather painful collision, a split board and lost time. Surprisingly though, the injured were not only back in the race, but they also made up for time they lost. I wonder, who could have issued a boating license to a blind and deaf captain? There's no other way to explain this situation. Neither the dimensions of the ferry, nor the warning horns, nor the shouts of the passengers had caused this captain to react. Fortunately, the impact was not so catastrophic. She passed like a caravel through the green waves, and just as gracefully, she entered the side of a yacht with her nose. Rafting has long conquered the world, but going down a treacherous mountain river in a speedboat? You guys are either crazy or have never gone face to face with rapids. Oh, looks like that's changed then. Everything was going so well. Remember I talked about this competition among ships? Still don't believe me? Check out this epic belly parking. I think this crew would have gotten first place had it not been for the damage to their fellow competitors. If the last video didn't have any people on shore, this video features a shore jam-packed with people who had come to admire these snow-white liners at the pier in San Diego, California. The Adventure Hornblower, a 49-meter cruise ship, didn't even think of slowing down before sliding into the wharf like a knife into butter. As usual, everything was attributed to a technical error. Okay, that one made sense, more or less, but Japanese vessels hardly ever do. Some say they hit whales for research purposes, others say they hit them for commercial purposes. As you know, back in 1986, an international ban on commercial whaling came into force. These two Sea Shepherd ships, the Steve Irwin and Bob Baker, are always on guard. In this case, they attempted to refuel a ship from a tanker, to which the Japanese vessel, the Nishin Maru, rammed and damaged both vessels, with the tanker following soon after. This footage is absolutely incredible. The Kinshing, a Taiwanese ship, collided with the Setsu Maru, a Japanese freighter. A few seconds later, it crashed into the side of the Duryun, a chemical tanker. I guess we've got too many ships in the ocean if these can't even separate into threes. Florida is famous for its super speedboat race in Key West. Every time the audience is in for some kind of action, just look at the drama. The challenger not only overtook the boat in the lead, he literally sat on top of him. Red Bull doesn't just give you wings, it also makes sailing a contact sport. And what do you expect when you're competing against each other in 155 kilogram boats at almost 75 kilometers per hour? Sometimes boats run away from their owners. You can see how that turned out. This boat may have been the only source of income for its owner, but as it turns out, dogs aren't the only things that need to be looked after when out and about. Someone clearly likes free sailing. Do you like placing bets? The captain of this ship obviously did when he decided to check which was stronger, the ship or the railroad bridge. What went wrong with the ship's navigational instruments? Or was it the mud flow at fault? Come on guys, every yachtsman knows that it's impossible to enter a wave of this height at an angle like that. Practice, practice, and more practice. Step aside MMA. No-holds-barred fights between fishing boats are this season's trend. While some pine for glory in the ring, the Allen's Lawn Care and Landscaping team at the Race World Offshore Championships in Key West attempted the famous Kaiser Waltz in couple with their competitor. The Bay of Bengal too brings us some epic moments. For example, in Bangladesh, parking a ship in some cases poses a problem for both captains and parking attendants. Those who live in megacities will know what I'm talking about. You can hear these awful noises at the dentist's office, but wait for this. This isn't that nightmare. It's just a collision between the Tropic Tide and the Lawrence XXX. Or rather, it was the Roro ship that crashed into the idling cargo ship as it was en route to the pier in Paramaribo from Guyana. Apparently, in the port of Mumbai, cargo handlers are used to show captains docking at the terminal. Otherwise, why would a port worker use his phone to film the daily occurrence of a container ship stopping by? This is confirmed also by the next clip. The Global Faith, a bulk carrier, also docked beautifully in Thiruvananthapuram, India, as did the last container ship. It's not only cargo ships that can harm the marina and the boats moored to them. Just take a look at what this boat owned by the DC police in Georgetown is doing. That's a hell of a rap! And you try to say this wasn't a special operation. If I had waited 2.5 years for my boat to be built and had paid $10 million for it, I would have never forgiven such a launch. I don't even understand how this was made possible. The descent was controlled, the yacht's weight and its distribution was probably also taken into account, but the yacht still fell over. Not entirely, of course, but for these famous Northern Marine Shipyard employees, this is simply unforgivable. Take a lesson from the Dutch. They even measure the thickness of the hull metal to the 100th of a millimeter. Have you ever had millions of dollars dropped on your head? Witnesses to the accident on the dock at Simpson Bay, St. Martin, bore the sight of millions of dollars falling from the sky. All because the 77-meter motor yacht did not fit into the small dimensions of the channel, which was only 16.7 meters. You know, this isn't the first time that something like this has happened here. At one point, the hull of the 86-meter Extasia, which once belonged to Russian oligarch Roman Abramovich, got damaged here. Sailing from her berth at the Isla del Sol Marina Yacht Club, the multi-ton Snow White Beauty demolished the control deck of this drawbridge. I wonder why the captain of the 79.25-meter yacht Venus, once owned by Steve Jobs, can do such complicated pirouettes with such ease. You can argue endlessly about perfect parking, especially in times of urbanization. Judging by the way the captain of this yacht attempts to find a lukewarm spot for himself, one can only guess as to whether he wanted to move away from the Sarasota Pier or to find the perfect parking spot. When choosing a yacht, remember that size matters. For example, a 4-to-6-meter yacht entered this bay with great difficulty, hit some rocks, and almost capsized. Pity losing that siren. Take to the skies. Some things these drag racers have taken to heart. An incredibly epic fall. Thankfully, everyone was unharmed.